All right, guys, let's get started. Okay, I'm gonna start the video here. I'm going to share the whiteboard actually. All right, so let's get started. I graded your first homework assignment, so take a look at that. If let me know if you have any questions. So I graded that. Today we're going to look at a new topic called cron. Basically, this is task scheduling in Unix. Okay, so we'll go over that. Should be a very interesting topic. Still, really, it's basically cron is a Linux facility or like a service daemon. We talked about how it's cron D basically. Right, so we're going to talk about cron today. And really just that will be the focus of today. And so this is, of course, Linux. Okay. So I'll go over the lecture, kind of give you the idea of how this works, and then we'll go to the virtual machine and, do a few exercises. But I have to give you some notes on how to do this. So cron is basically a program. It's a scheduling system, right? So it's a queuing system, if you want to call it that, or a task scheduling system. Okay, it's the task scheduling system in Linux, right? So it's to schedule tasks, basically. Okay, so that's the idea. So you're basically doing the automation. So far you have learned that you can go to the terminal and basically write a command like ls, right? Or you've also learned that you can create a Python script or a bash script or a Perl script. Today we'll do a Perl script, so I'll show you guys that language, although that will not be the priority. But you can, do execution of a script, let's call it, example 1.python, right? So you know that you can do this, but now the additional component is that you can actually schedule these commands or these scripts to run at specific times. Okay, so that's really the advantage of cron, and that's what we are going to be doing today. So understanding the language, understanding first of all, how do we enter these commands into cron, and then how do we run them. Okay, so all right, so it's basically I'll go over this, just give you some information, and then we'll get into the how to actually enter the syntax, if you will, into the cron facility. So this is periodic program execution, right? And that's cron itself. So cron is a Unix facility that allows you to schedule programs for periodic execution. So this is the kind of thing that you've always heard of in system administration, like, oh yeah, at 2 a.m. we're going to run a backup of files, right? We're going to take the files in this folder, we're going to compress the files, and then we're going to create this backup. Or we're going to go in at 3 a.m. every other day, right? And we're going to go in and analyze some files, some log files, and then we're going to create a report, something like that. That's basically what cron allows you to do. So now you can bring in, a third element. If you want to think of this as the first element is the Linux commands, and then the second element is the scripts. Now you're going to bring in the third element, which is cron, and cron basically will give you the power of how to run Linux commands or scripts at any interval, or and you can basically do that. So this is what we're going to focus on today. So you can use cron to clean up backups, create backups, clean up files every night, for instance. You can create backups periodically. You can call scripts and run scripts. So basically, it's a daemon. So we talked about daemons last week, and the daemon should be cron D. basically, cron D. The one that's going to be running in the background. So basically, you're gonna have a file. So we've talked about how everything in Linux is a file. So we're gonna learn how to open cron, which should be something like cron-e. And then you're going to select an editor, like Nano, for instance. It's basically just a text file. Okay. And then all you need to do is you're going to have to enter into this text file these cron entries. Okay. And the cron entry is just a sentence that we're going to add in there. That's it. So if you remember, no, Linux, right? No GUIs, none of that. So you go to a text file, you put in your entries, don't run. Okay. And so that's basically the idea. So you specify in this cron file what to run and when to run it. Okay. And these are going to be called, so we're going to say that this is the statement that we add in there. So these are called Crontab entries. Okay, and the Crontab just means table, so Crontab. Okay. So Crontab stands for cron table. By default, any user may add entries to the cron schedule. Every user will have their own cron file, if you will. Okay. So that's basically the idea. So these files can be stored in the file system, obviously, somewhere like in var, which we talked about var, right? So we said that var is where all the variable files go, right? So the var of the file system. Okay, so these are files that can grow in size or etc. So they can be located there. All right, so now these are going to be one-liners, okay? So the way that the syntax works, so we're going to get into that basically, do some examples. So we're going to need to know the syntax. This is not per se like writing a program. Instead, we're just going to be entering statements into the cron table file, okay? Each one-line entry in the Crontab file will have the following format. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about now. So we need to have a format. And it's very simple, but it can also get a little bit complex. All right, so we have, so these are one-line entries. So one-line entries, okay? One-line entries, and they're going to look like this. So imagine this is the file, right? And you're going to add an entry. So the format will be minutes. And write this down because this is how you're going to be, I'm going to give you a set of problems as usual, and you guys will have to write the correct cron entry. And I'll do a lot of examples today. But the entries format will be minutes, then hours, then day of month, then month, then weekday, and then finally here, command. Okay, now command can be any Linux command, including running a script, okay? So that's something that's really important. So I'm going to define what minutes is, what hours is, what day, all of this. But basically, you can probably see the idea, right? So if I have this one, and then I would have several entries here, and they all kind of have to have this format, right? They're separated by space. So they'll have one space separating them, but the command one can actually have several spaces because we know we can do ls space -l and so on, okay? Or if you do Python space, the actual Python script. So that's, something to know about. So white space separates the fields basically, okay? However, the final field, which is command, can contain spaces within it, okay? So pay attention to that, please. Now, the first 5 fields, which are these, right? So the first 5 fields are these, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the first 5 fields specify times at which cron should execute. All right. And what is it going to execute? Well, it's going to execute the command itself, whatever you want it to be. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, this is probably like the most important if you have a cheat sheet or if you're putting this on GitHub, just this is the description of the fields, which will have basically what they are, the ranges of the values that you can use, etc. Most of it is going to be like numbers, right, to specify how it works. So this is just like a little table. Okay, so let's call this description of the fields. Description of the fields. Okay, so we have minutes, hours. So let's list them first. So minutes, hours, 1, 2, hours, day of month, and weekday. Okay, so the definitions, as you might already understand, minutes after the hour, so it's gonna run at, if you put 30, so every 30, so at 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, right? So that's what you mean. The minutes after the hour. Hours means hours of the day, right? Which hour of the day? Do you want it at 2 a.m., noon, that kind of thing. Day of the month is the numeric day within a month, right? So today is the 30th, right? So that's what that means. Month is month of the year. So right now would be January. And then weekday is going to be day of the week, right? So today is Tuesday. All right. So that's basically the definition of them. One other thing we might want to have is the range. So these are actually the values you need to enter. So when you do your homework, for instance, you have to keep in mind, if you want to see this run, right, you have to put in a date like, well, if you want to see it today, you got to put in January 30th, right, at 4:20, and then you'll see it. But if somehow you start, I may in the problems not do that. I may just put some strange random date, and then you need to know that it's going to run then and not now. All right, so basically the range is going to be, this is the value, so 0 to 59, right? 59 minutes. The hour of the day is like military time, so it's going to be 0 to 23. Okay, 0 would be midnight. Okay, so just keep that in mind. 0 would be midnight. Okay. Numeric day of the month would be from 1 to 31. Month of the year is 1 to 12. Notice that this is not consistent, right? So some start at 0, others start at 1. So just, okay, so just keep that in mind. All right. And then weekday is 0 to 6. Okay, where 0 would be Sunday. Okay, so 0 is Sunday. Okay, so again, now if you're managing your servers, etc., you could leave a cron entry in there, right, for the server. I want you to back up the take the files, zip them, create the backup on Tuesdays at 2 a.m. Does that make sense, guys? That's basically all, the idea. So it's simple enough, I think, and basically we'll go through some examples, and then I'll show you guys how to write a Perl script, and you're going to run the Perl script from cron, and then you can imagine how you can also do Python, Bash, etc. Okay, so lots of things. So an entry in any of these fields, right, minutes, hours, etc., can be a single number, can be a pair of numbers separated by a dash, which indicates range, right? So that indicates a range. So we'll go over here. So, you know, possible options are a single number, right, like 3. Or another option is a pair of numbers separated by a dash, so it indicates a range. So you might say like from 30 to 40, right? So it's going to be all of those for that particular field. Okay. A comma separated list of numbers, right? That's also acceptable. So you can say, for instance, 15, 30, 45, and so on, right? So probably 0. Okay. So you can basically have that value. Now, you can also have an asterisk. Okay. And an asterisk is basically a wild card. Okay. It's a wild card that represents all valid values for that field. So this is an important one. This is where it starts to get a little bit more complicated. I'll just say here represents all valid values for that field. Okay, so all valid values for that field. Now you also have the comment, which is, you know, whenever you want to comment something out, I do recommend when you do the homework assignment, you'll have several entries. So basically just comment out whichever one you're not using. No need to. So basically, if you have an entry, let's say like, you know, that's your entry, and then you have another entry here, just add £, and it'll comment out that entry basically. Okay. So yeah, a comment, it used to comment out entries. So let's look at an example of this. Okay, so let's do one example here just to kind of illustrate. These are, I think, fun. So we'll go through them first manually, and then we can start trying them out on the computer. But a lot of these, you know, are dates that are not going to run today. We have to modify them to today. All right, so let's think about this. So imagine this is the cron tab, right? The text file. So we have 0, 15, 30, 45, right? And then I have asterisk, 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 asterisk. And then we do something like echo date. Right? So we want to identify the parameters here, right? So the command is pretty obvious. It's this one. That's the command. Notice that there's a white space here, but then the command can have what white spaces in it. All right, and then we have the other 5 fields. So the first thing you want to identify is this is a field, this is a field, this is a field, this is a field, this is a field. Right, and they're separated by what do you call it? By white space, right? So we established that this is the minutes. I'll just write mins. This is the hours. This one is day of month. Right? The next one is month. And the last one is weekday. All right, so basically the goal now is to identify what this would do. All right, so that's really the objective now. We said that if it's an asterisk, then basically it's going to run every possible option there, right? So an asterisk is a wildcard that represents all valid values for that field. So the command is to display the date, right? Let's say on the terminal, right? Displays it. And then how does it do it? What's the behavior here? So it would try to run every hour, right? It would try to run every day of the month. It would try to run every month. It would try to run every weekday because it's basically all the values in that range. The thing that's kind of filtering here is that we're not letting it run every minute, right? We're providing a list, comma separated, of the minutes at which we want it to run. So therefore, what would this do? This would display date. Let's try to answer. Display date. And then this is like a time component, so we can say every what? Every 15 minutes, exactly. Very good. You see that? That's basically how it is. Every 15 minutes, it's going to do that task. So remember, this is just your Linux operating system. Now it will have, you know, it's like a scheduling mechanism. It'll run whatever you put here in the command, which could be a script or just, you know, Linux commands, etc. All right, so the homework for you guys will then imagine something like create a backup of files at this time. So it'll be a word problem. You have to do that and try to run it, try to run some, you know, obviously I might say run it on at the end of the month, but you have to also provide an example of it running now and then just give me the actual answer to the question. Does this make sense, guys? Is this clear enough? All right, so we'll just do a whole bunch of examples of this, you know, and take it as a fun thing, you know. So let's try another one. So this is what I'll do. I'll give you the code, and then you guys can tell me, you know, the word solution, basically. So let's do number 2. Another example. So this one, let's see. Zero. Okay. Okay, so once again, we do the same thing, right? So the command is this one. What is that? That's a shell script, right? sh just indicates, sh is usually actually a symbolic link to bash or dash, all right? It's the, you can see the extension is sh, so it's a type of shell. But it could be, I'll show you later how to do a Perl one, and we can try different things, right? So this is the same field, another field, right? So who wants to try this one out? Yeah, please.
So it's gonna run every 10 minutes from the hours of 7 to 6.
Yep.
p.m.
Yep. From
And then
7. Go ahead.
And then just every day month.
This is sh.
Yeah, just I meant for like the wild cards. But
Yeah, these are 3. Oh, yeah. So this would be day of month, and weekday. So basically, you can say here that it's going to run every 10 minutes from 7 a.m. to, as you said, 6 p.m. Got it? Any questions? Any questions? All right. Yeah. So basically daily, right? It's a daily kind of a thing. All right. Let's do another one. Oh, yeah, I should write these down. So say run, make sure you, so run the shell a.sh every 10 minutes. every 10 minutes from 7 a.m. 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. That's automation for you. So you can automate basically your entire backups, you know, all of it. All right, so let's do another one. This is going to be number 3. So. All right, so I'll give you another one. Okay. So notice that this is got a lot of spaces in between. That's the command, so that's perfectly fine. Okay, that's the find command that we kind of talked about a little bit last week. So then we want to think about what this one does. So again, you can see the 5 fields here. 3 of them are wild cards. Okay. So this, we can say that runs the find command. So it runs the find command. Okay. And then when?
Once at the very start of the day, at 12 a.m.
Midnight, right? Yeah, very good. Yeah, good job.
Every day, because there's no one, so just get on that every day at midnight.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that you're correct. So it runs the find command at midnight, basically, every day. Got it? So it's making sense, right? So basically, this is, you know, it's very straightforward. We'll see in a little bit. So we'll just start Crontab. We'll start adding our entries, and you can now start to really leverage the power of automation to create your own scripts to manage your servers. Any questions? All right, let's do another one then. All right, so let's do. All right, so same idea, right? So we can underline command values here. Okay. What about this one?
At 4
At 4 what?
a.m.
4 a.m. Very good. And it runs the shell script, right? That's a shell script. Right? Whatever you're doing with the shell script, it's going to do it. Very good. So they're starting to look easy, right? Okay, so it runs a shell script every day. At 4 a.m. Okay, very good. All right, let's do another. Should be 5, I think. Let's do. And then just I'll just write script here. All right, so again, we have this. Okay. So what about this one? This one runs a script. Okay. At what?
This runs a script on the 30th of January at 3 a.m.
The 30th of January.
It's the first of each month, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh, first of each
Yeah.
month.
yeah. So that third one is month. Day of month. So it's actually the first of the month. First of the month. Got it? Yeah.
First one, 30 would be.
First day of each month at 3:30 a.m. Yeah.
Oh, that's minutes.
This is minute, yes, 30. Yeah. And this is hour,
Oh,
and this is day of month. Yeah. Yeah. Got it, guys? All right, so let me write this down so that you have it as an example. Run script at, so write these down actually, because they do get harder. Okay, they get tricky. All right, so it runs, but it's very powerful. It's very simple and very powerful. That's the beauty of it. All right, so run script at 3:30 a.m. On the first day. The first day of each month. Okay. So at the start of every month, it's going to run this script. Maybe it's a backup, something, an update could be, or something like that. All right, so let's do another one. 6. All right, how about this one? Let's see. Oh, this one's interesting. Okay, so we have here the command, another script that's running, shell script. Got this one. Okay. So we have to look at the last field, right? The last field is weekday, day of the week.
It's gonna run the script at 2:30 a.m. on Sunday and Saturday.
Sunday and Saturday.
Yeah, Sunday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Starting at 0.
Yeah, it starts at
It
0.
would be last day of the week.
That's right.
Zeros and stuff.
Yep, exactly right. All right, very good. So then this one is a run script. Run script at 2:30 a.m. on Sunday and Saturday. All right, good. Let's see. So we did that. What else do we do? All right, let's do another one. All right, so the next one This really should be echo. So look at this one. And what do you say? What is the question mark?
At the very end of the year, with 30 minutes to go, print Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Very good. Good job. Yeah, exactly. Happy New Year. All right, very good. Yeah, Happy New Year. Oops. Exactly. So this is going to run some command, right? Print or echo. So run command. At 11:30. 11:30. This would be, well, actually, this has a, does this have an error? It's 11. The hours should be what?
It should be 23.
23, right? 23, yeah. Because this otherwise would be at 11:30 a.m.
It'd be 10.
Yeah, yeah. So this would be 23 probably. All right. So yeah, so at 11:30 p.m. probably. Otherwise, I mean, if you wanted, this would have been a.m., but we're changing. So p.m. on December 31st, which is 12 December 31st. And then you're gonna do this. Basically, doesn't matter the day of the week, right? And then that's how you run it. Got it? All right. And then you can say Happy New Year. Okay. Let's try this one, the next one. It's number 8. What about that one? Oh, yeah.
Just wanted to make
Yes.
sure. I was like, is that, that's not a type, right?
No, they're not
I don't
types.
remember them saying-
Yeah, sorry. They're just a number 1. What do you think?
Run a backup at the very beginning of January.
The very beginning of January. So January 1st.
Yep.
Only if it's a Monday. You're right in thinking like that. This is kind of a tricky one. So we just kind of have to know like an exception here. So really this one, basically when you have day of the week and day of the month together, then those two are ORed. So it's an OR statement. And that just gives it more power, basically, okay? So I'll write this down so that you guys have this as a note. Make a note of it that it's got like little exceptions here and there. So day of the week. Day of the week. And day of the month. Day of the month are ORed. or org, okay? So if both are filled in, the entry is run on that day of the month and on the matching day of the week. Okay? So keep that in mind. So then this one would read as, so run January 1st, as you said, very good, and every Monday. And as I said, you just kind of have to know these exceptions. Yeah, go ahead.
Would it still have to be in January? Every Monday in January or?
No, it's gonna, no, right, I see your, because then it's more restricted and actually they want more flexibility in the way that this was done. Why they made it like that? Like, it's one of those things where everything worked and then it's probably like, wait, what about this? How do we do this? Does this make sense, guys? Yeah, so you just have to be aware of those little things. You also have a little trick, which is, what is it? I'll actually, that's part of the homework, so I'll leave that for later. Let's see. So if you have too many items to list, there is a shorthand for that. And it's something like this. So for instance, let's say that you wanted to do every 2 minutes, right? Every 2 minutes. So the way that we've learned so far with every 2 minutes, you would have to do what? 2, 4, 6, right? You see that? So there's a shorthand sort of to do that. And it's basically a trick where you can do something like this. Make sense? Right? So just also be aware of that one. Okay. Let's see if I think I have a couple more. All right, let's do one more. So how about this? I'm going to continue this down here. The command. Okay. Okay. So what about that one? Any ideas? So probably, I think this part is easy, right? You're just getting maybe your old quantity because of this. So we'll go, actually I'm going to talk about this in a second, but it's basically a few additional things that you do when you're writing these entries just to kind of make things more efficient. So basically here we are running shell script daily.sh. And we can say that it runs daily actually, right? So it runs daily. every morning at 1 a.m. Right? And then what's happening here is we're going to talk about what these things are, these symbols. This is, as you stated, Bob, right? As you stated, this is the pipe. Okay, and then this is just mail. And then you have an account, basically, right? So basically, this is running a script that generates some data that's being piped into the mail facility and then emailed to root or some account. Right, so you can effectively create a report at 1 a.m. is what you're doing. Okay, that's being emailed. All right, so we'll talk about that in a second. I think I only have two more examples, and then I'll assume you guys are good to go with cron, and then I'll give you a set of problems, for you guys to have as homework. And then we'll talk about a few more topics and then move to the virtual machine. So let's do, let's see. This one. Just going to say echo here. Simplify. Echo. Hello. All right. So this one, what about this one? Who wants to try? Runs echo, right?
It's at 2 a.m. every Monday.
Every Monday, yes. Very good. Runs echo at 2 a.m. every Monday. All right. All right. So I think the last one I have is a little bit repetitive, so I'm going to skip that one. All right. So hopefully that kind of concludes the cron and the logic of how to do the syntax. We're going to look at a few other things that I mentioned here that are basically parameters that might help you when you're writing these cron entries, because the scripts sometimes generate data and you want to do how to handle them, right? So this is a perfect time for that. So in particular, we're going to look at what this is here, the pipe, and how we can continue to structure things with Linux. Okay. So let's move to a new page. Let's see. Right. So this is called output handling. Okay. So I'll provide a definition. This is one of those things that doesn't quite have a place, but it's something you see a lot and you might get a little bit confused as to what it means. So it's helpful. So let's call this output handling. Okay. So few ideas here are basically redirecting. So you want to redirect. Redirecting. You have piping, which I think you guys have seen me do that, and you kind of get that one. Clear enough. So that you can use several commands, one after the other. And then there's also discarding, when you want to get rid of output that a script generates. So sometimes you want the script to generate data in some cases, but in others you just don't want to use the data, so you want to discard it. So these are all, especially when you're doing these one-liners, this becomes useful. So discarding would be the other idea. So redirecting to a file, basically. So you're running so the scenario for this is you have a script that's running. right? Some script that's running. This script generates output. So in general, processes will have these parameters 2 and 1. Okay, and these parameters are the output of it. The one is the actual output, the other one is the error of the process. So what you're doing effectively is you have this way, it's called the standard out, and basically you have a way of getting this data and moving it out through the pipe on the terminal itself. So in this case, that's, I'll just kind of like write it like this. You'll do 2. The symbols for it are this, right? And they just represent the standard output and the standard error. And then usually you can do things like redirect it to a file. So this symbol means redirecting. So it's like you're moving it, sending it. And then here you can have like a file, for instance, file.txt. So we'll look at an example of this later. Or piping, as what we saw in the previous example, is something similar. You can have like the outputs, right? And they are piped, right? And that's kind of a similar idea. This is passed on to another process. So I think we've done like grep before, for instance, right? Grep and then, some name, for instance, that you're looking for. Okay. So this is another example of redirecting. Remember, all of this is happening on the terminal. All of this can happen in a bash script, for instance, because in a bash script, you write as you write on the terminal, for instance, as well. And then discarding is the idea of sending to like a trash can. In Linux, Linux does have a nice thing that you could think of as a trash can. Just keep in mind, it's gone. And that's basically in the file system, you have something called dev, and then you have null, dev null. So when you want to get rid of something like an output, maybe you're running a script that generates output, you just want to get rid of it. So you can redirect it to dev null. So it would look something like this. This is a 1. Dev null. Okay, so you're redirecting into dev null basically. So what exactly is this symbol here? All right, so let's take a look at that. So what does this actually mean? And one great thing about this is that this also works like in Python. If we'll have a library in Python. So you could actually take something that's coming out of some process in bash, pipe it, and then you can have a Python script that can receive it. So you can combine things like that and do further processing, right? So basically the 2 here refers to the second file descriptor of the process, which is standard error, all right? So you have a process that's running, and the process has these file descriptors, and the descriptor number 2 should stand for the standard error. So if a process has an error when it's executing, the information goes here, right? So or it's null basically. This symbol here just means oops, sorry. So when you do this, so this symbol here, the greater than symbol, means redirection. So just sending the data, redirection. And then the ampersand 1, that is the standard out. So that's actually the output of the process. Okay, so standard out. Let me ampersand. So standard out, it's the output of the process. So standard out is the output the output of the process. Okay, so that's the output of the process, basically. So in this case, whenever you use these together, you know, 2 greater than ampersand 1, it redirects the standard output and standard error of a process somewhere, like for instance to dev null. Okay, that's the idea basically. Okay, any questions on this, guys? Make sense? All right, so all right, we finished that. I think that this, you'll understand all the problems. We'll do that in a sec. All right, great. So I think, yeah, that we should be ready now to switch to the virtual machine. All right, so hopefully that's a good foundation for the theory. All right, so now we're gonna go in and try to do an example of you know, cron. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing this whiteboard. Okay, and now let's start the virtual machine. Let me share. I guess that's what I need to do. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna switch to this one. Okay. So what we're gonna do now is just do an example of logging. Okay, so we're gonna look at logging on Linux. We're gonna write a Perl script, and then we're gonna try to run it through cron. Does that make sense? So we're gonna need to run it. You guys can write this in different ways, right? And it's just an example of how to get started with cron. So let's wait for the virtual machine. It's taking longer than usual, I think. Okay, well, all right. Took a while. All right, so let's log in. Okay, so the goal is we're gonna write a script. This is gonna be a Perl script. So mostly in this course, we'll look at Python, we'll look at Bash at some point, and this is just another one. Perl is a old type of a scripting language. It's very powerful, but it is kind of very old. And so but you know, it's a for an opportunity for you guys to look at another type of scripting language. And basically this one will help us to just create a logger, okay? So it's a type of thing. We're gonna run it, of course, from cron, and we're just gonna write our names to the log files in the var folder. All right, so let's go ahead and start the terminal here. So I'm starting the terminal. Okay, perfect. So let's do ls-l. Let's navigate to the desktop. Clear. Navigate to ITS 372. Create a new folder. This one, cron. Okay, now let's cd in there. Clear. Right. So first, let's create the Perl script, okay, so that we have something to run. Then we have to think about how we're going to run this from cron itself. So let's start up Nano, and we're going to call this one logger.pl. Okay, the name of the file. So this is what a Perl script looks like. We can try the shebang here. So it's going to be something like this, possibly. Although we don't need to make it executable. Remember, this is only if you're making it executable, then it wants to look at what interpreter to use. Okay. So then we're going to add, so basically the usage is something like this. So you import some kind of a module and you use semicolons basically. And I know it becomes like invisible there, but yeah. So use strict is so that it has some compile checks, okay? And then use warnings also to enable runtime warnings. So it's just an example. This doesn't really need that many things. Then here's actually the library that we need. So we're going to say use from sys. Notice it is case sensitive. Sys. And then it's got syntax like this. And then we're going to say syslog. Syslog is basically another type of a daemon that allows you to log information, okay? We're going to specify, this is the library of syslog functions. So we're going to specify here some parameters. Default. And set log socket like that. So this basically is invoking the library for syslog. This is a comment, so I'm going to say library or syslog and establishing the socket that we're going to use to communicate. All right, then after that is really just starting the logging mechanism and actually logging some information, okay? So we're gonna use set log sock Unix. And this uses semicolons. So again, did I miss a semicolon? Yeah, I missed a semicolon, sorry. Okay. And then this is to use the Unix socket. Another comment. Right. Then we're going to open the log. And this is like metadata, so this should show on the entry. So we're going to say logger .pl process ID, PID, and the user. Okay, so this is the metadata that should appear in our entry. Okay. Now this is going to write to let me use single quotes. This is going to write to a log file, to an actual Unix log file located in var. So we're going to have to look for it in one of those. So we'll navigate to that. Then we're going to write something like our name. So we're going to say syslog and then info and just write your name. So, or you can write like Purdue or something, Purdue University. Oops, sorry. Northwest. Okay, don't forget the semicolon there. Forgot another semicolon here. And then finally, we just have to close the log. So close log, just like that. So this is Perl. I mean, we're not going to use Perl that much, okay? It's basically just to show you that there are other scripting languages. As I said, I mean, there's a whole book on Perl, okay? So just be aware of that. Anyway, so now that we've done this, let's first try to run this and see if it writes to a log file, an actual system log file. So remember, we're not just writing to some text file, etc. We are actually using the logging system of Unix, and we're going to try to write to one of the logging files, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see if it'll run. So I'm just going to write Perl. Okay, so ran, no errors. So now where would this be? So we want to navigate into var. Do ls-l. Var should have a log, right? So it has a folder in there called log. So cd into log. Clear. Everyone with me? So I'm in, if I type pwd, I'm there. And I'm just looking, since I use the syslogging mechanism of Unix, I'm trying to see if I was able to write into the file. So we want to find in here the appropriate file. So let's see. There's one called syslog. And I think there's one called I'm just trying to see if there's anything. I would say it's in syslog. So what we want to do then is cat syslog. Do you see Purdue University Northwest in there? So it should be logging a lot of things, and this was just an entry that we sent, but there should be others. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Do you guys find it? Did you see it there? Not there? Hmm. Nobody? Okay, so maybe it's not there. So then what is the options are that the script didn't work? Or it could be somewhere else. Okay, so I'm gonna do it clear. I don't see any other files where it could be. What do you guys think? Let's go back to the script. Maybe I did something wrong. Before we try to run this with cron tabs, we want to make sure the script actually works. So let's do desktop. So logger.pl. That should be correct. Everything looks correct to me, so just gonna try it again. Oh, I tried it several times. Maybe I just missed it. All right, so let's go back to here. Oh, there it is. Right? Do you agree? All right, so I don't know, maybe it was there, but I just wasn't seeing it. So now you can see it's no longer there, but it's not that it's been deleted, it's just see it's back. It's been replaced by other logging data. So it must have been in there, we just missed it. Got it, guys? So it's a little bit tricky to see, but it's there. You just have to look for it. Does this make sense? Notice it wrote logger PL, the process ID of the Python of this Perl script when I was running it, the VM name basically, and then it wrote Purdue University Northwest. So basically here you were able to log through syslog, using a Perl script, and you wrote to the var log, which is where logging files are supposed to be located. Does that make sense, guys? All right, great. So now you have a Perl script that you know works. Now the trick is, how do we run this on cron And we want to see it, right? So I'm going to change the words so that this runs from cron. So I'm just going to say cron message is Purdue University Northwest, right? So that's what we want to find. So but we're gonna run it from cron itself. So we gotta look for that. So how do we start cron? So it should be Crontab E. Okay, so let me do actually clear here. So this is more of a like a Linux command. So cron tab dash E to start up the cron facility. Okay. Now keep in mind, this has opened the cron file. Okay. You can see it's got a lot of comments here. Now you probably have nothing in here. This is probably me from last semester where I left an entry in here. Okay. So you can just comment it out. Basically gives you a little explanation here. MHDOM, month and day of week, and then the command. Okay. So now one important notion here is notice I added the command, right? So I'm going to hit Control X, Y, enter, right? Okay, so make sure that it's saved the information. So I'm going to start Crontab again. So it's saved it, right? So that's good. So let's just add here. Now the Crontab entry, right? So that we can log. So you guys tell me, how do we do this one? Perl, probably, right? We need to tell it where the file is located because otherwise it won't know. So that would be in what? Home, seed, desktop, right? Desktop. Then it's going to be, I think, ITS 372 spring 2024 micron and then it was logger.pl. Got it? So that's the command, basically, hopefully. And then we just need to add in here, you know, we need to create our first cron entry in Crontab. So what do you guys suggest? We want to see it now, right? So it's 5, we want to run it at what? Let's say 526. So how do we do that? You guys follow me, right? Yeah. All right. So we want to add this entry in here and run it. So how do we do it?
The first one.
Yep.
26.
26, perfect.
And then 17.
17.
And then just wild card for the rest.
Wildcard for
Or do you want to do a specific date?
No, I mean, if you think it'll work. Now, keep in mind my date and time, right, are in the system are January 30 at 1824. Right, so I don't have, my point is check your system time because it's going to depend on that, right? Probably.
Mine's at 17.
Yours is at 1725. Okay, perfect. So mine's at 1825. So probably then 18 here. You see what I'm saying? Probably just give myself a minute. Got it? Everyone with me, guys? Just check your system time And should this be enough? All right, so, okay, it should be in there, right? Let's just double check. It's there. All right, so now let's see, that's it, right? So, oh yeah, go ahead.
Can you go back 1 second to the?
Yeah,
sorry?
of course, yeah, sure.
I think the cron and file directory, since we've got those. But under my cron,
The CRON,
yeah,
okay, thanks.
I just saw the directory at the top of the page. There's some-
Oh yeah, you're right, thank you, good catch. All right, Control X, Y, enter. All right, guys, so that's the idea, right? So we added an entry in there. We're invoking a Perl script, and what, you know, I'm showing you the whole pipeline, if you will, of how you would do this. You decided that you want to log something at a certain time. So you've written the Perl script, and then you have the cron entry, and now you're, you know, you just forget about it. Okay. So we have to give it, wait until the time comes. So it's 1826. So hopefully it'll work. Did you guys all set it for 28? 28? So let's wait and see then. All right, so in a minute, it should execute. Really, we should go to the other terminal. This one here. All right, so I'm gonna. Okay. Cat syslog. Don't see it yet. All right, so it's 28. What do you guys think? You got it to work? Yeah. And you can see it's right there, right? It's the third entry. This one, cron message is Purdue University Northwest, and you know, with the PID and so on. Got it? See that? So that's, you know, you've taken your automation to the next level now, because you can use the Linux task scheduling facility, and you can run different Linux commands, you can run different scripts and so on. So you have basically full automation there, right? So as I've said several times, you know, sysadmin, a lot of it is that, right? So knowing all the Linux commands, obviously, and knowing all the file structure of Linux and some of the services, but in general, is about automating, you know, your work, right? So you want to definitely take advantage of this, you know, maybe you have a server that's like downloading data and then compiling the data and creating reports, you know, things like that. All right, any questions? All right, so in the next few minutes, I'll just kind of go to Brightspace, and we can just take a look at the files for this week, right? What you can expect on Thursday for the lab assignment. I may create a few new problems, but I'll just kind of show you what I have there. All right, so we're going to go ahead. So I think I can stop the recording at this point. This next part is not a demo, but just going over the homework. Okay, like kind of like just showing you the documents. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'm going to stop the